There he is. All right, we got it. Not too bad. Easy peasy. Dope, dope. Awesome. Well, hey, listen, everybody. It's Tuesday night. And yes, it's the 10th of September. This is episode number 32, Legacy Project. And Albert and I are really excited about Downey coming on. So, a little background, as many of you may or may not know, like I published a book last year. And in that, I got to speak in front of hundreds of people, thousands at this point. And Daniel was one of those guys that I ran into about a year ago. We actually spoke at the same conference. And what really intrigued me was just his vulnerability, right? You look at him, you look at his stash, right? He's got a badass mustache, and you think this guy is a hard ass. You just, and I get the same thing from myself sometimes. But when he started talking, you could just tell he had so much passion, he had so much to say. But what really got us to talk about, have him on the show, was I was intrigued by him. I wanted to hear his story, and Albert and I had a pre-call with him about a week ago, and I learned more about Daniel than ever before, and it made me even more excited to just unlock it. I think a lot of you are going to be super touched by his story. I think a lot of you are going to be inspired by his story. And I'm going to say this, a lot of you are going to have your fucking excuses taken away from you. So I'll leave it there, and I'll let Albert say a few things, and we'll have Daniel come on board.
Yeah, thank you, Daniel. When we talked on Friday, I think again, I have my dad told me a little bit about you, and it was just really cool actually feeling your cool energy. You're just so down to earth. And for me, it was just really calming to actually listen to your voice and hear more of your story. Just on like what it really meant to be a father, what really meant to just show up in your life and stuff like that too. So I know once we get started, we kind of ended on a really good note last week, and I kind of wanted to bring it up a little
Yes.
bit too, and just have you introduce yourself a little bit more of like what it means for you to really just want to come on to this show. Like when you were talking with my dad
Mm.
originally, what did you expect when you were like coming on here? Was there something like was there like a feeling that you were kind of attached to that like you wanted to
Mm.
share?
Well, I just expected as in to know about who am I, where I came from, my background, and who I am now. That's what I expected to be on here. Oh, I'm gonna come on here, share a little bit of my past and how I came about to be who I am now, because I'm like a whole different person, whole different mindset. So yeah, it's incredible.
So what's the biggest thing that you've learned so far, just as a father, and then also you mentioned a little bit about being a minister and a pastor. Me and my dad were kind of confused on that too. How is that? What can you explain like what the difference of that is and like how that
So
shaped you as a father overall?
yeah, so and it's funny that you bring that up because I learned a lot how to be a man in the church
Mm.
and what is expected of a man, and not religion, but a relationship. So different of what I know from my point of view, from my perspective and my wisdom. A pastor is a pastoral who takes care of the sheep in a church, and their objection is to guide them, feed them, and give them the word throughout the week, so they can go throughout the week, be there for them, pray for them, take care of them. As a minister, on the other hand, a minister is more like a one-on-one, more like outside of the church. Let's talk what's going on in your walk. What do you need to learn? What do you need to work on? What are you struggling with? you know and so we we break down the verses to them of what we know. We don't know as much, but we know enough to teach them so they can keep going. We know enough so we look, you have to wake up and open up the book and read it, and feed your spirit just as we feed our physical body. And
Mhm.
so that's a job of a minister, able to pray for them, when they ask of anything, or they have uh any curious questions about how do I fast, or why is this happening to me. We're able to answer those type of questions. As opposed a pastor, he can answer those type of questions, but he's so busy that he cannot get in contact with each and every individual from the church. And so that's what we come about. Ministers come about that we're well learned and behaved in the word, matured. I would say matured, and so we're able to connect with them. Of course, if you want to connect with the pastor one, you will make an appointment. But
No.
my point that I'm trying to make is we're there, ministers are there for that, to take care of people outside of church.
So I'm gonna just go for it now. We're wide open, okay? So there's two stories of Daniel that I'm really intrigued with, and I'm gonna let you pick one.
Mhm.
There's a story that I heard of the man that you were, and then the man you became, and part of your journey was
Mm.
through the church. And then there's the man you became, and then the father you became.
Ooh.
Which one resonates the most, and which rabbit hole do you want to go down?
I would say let's go with the father one, because we're
Awesome.
talking about man here. Let's
Yeah.
speak about how I was a child, not a father yet.
So take us on the rabbit hole of when you became a father
so
and the big
so
challenges that came up.
yes, sir. So like I love how you said I'm a vulnerable person. And the reason why I'm able to be vulnerable is because I'm healed from it. And
Mm,
so if I'm not healed from something, I'm not be able to be vulnerable with it.
Hmm.
You would ask me and I would be like, I think I will skip it, So you asked me that question when I was vulnerable enough to tell you, what? Let's talk about that. Let's talk about me when I used to not be a father and I was a child, And so, and I'm gonna be very vulnerable, honest, and transparent with you guys. And so I was away from my son's life for 2 years.
mm,
Um, I did see him born. I was there for him. Unfortunately, only 1 week.
mm,
I was there. I hold him. I was in the hospital. Uh, got to see him cry. Got to, see him. I cut his
mm,
cord. I also held him, fed him.
mm.
Was there for his little shots, everything that you can think of. I got him out of the hospital, took him home. So we had to go through a process. When you have a kid, you're like, you have to be able to do this, that, in order for him to get, out. So we did everything. After 1 week, I fortunately once again was put away,
Mm.
due to my behavior, due to my past, due to things that I of just disobeyed the law and
So,
everything.
so real quick, just so we know,
Yes,
does that mean you were incarcerated?
yes, sir.
Okay.
I was
All right.
incarcerated.
Got it. I want to make sure because people don't know what that means. Maybe vacation. I want to
Okay,
be
I'm
really
sorry.
honest.
Yeah, so I went away for 2 years. So I got incarcerated for 2 years. Thankfully, it was non-violent, you know.
Mm,
So I got out in 2 years.
mm,
And so once I got released, I still had the mindset of a child,
mm,
because this is where it gets good. It is because my whole life I had been in and out of institutions.
mm,
And so all I knew was institution streets. And so when I say I was raised in an institution, I mean that I spent most of my life incarcerated.
mm.
And so it's called, we joke about it and we say, oh, you're institutionalized,
Yeah.
because you spend most of your time in there and then less time out here.
Mhm,
And so we tend to come out here for like 3 months,
mhm.
4 months, and then we go back in. So that's what it's called, being institutionalized, because you just come out here for a little bit of time and you go back in there for a year or two, you know? And so when I got released after those 2 years, I wanted to make a shift, a change, but I didn't know how.
Mm.
So I thought, honestly, if I could just leave the crowd that I'm with, I can change. But that's not true. So you leaving the environment, it's one thing. But another thing is that you have to change yourself.
Mm.
Because if you leave the environment and you're still the same person, nothing changes. You just left the environment.
Yeah.
So I thought the environment was the problem. The environment was not the problem. I was the problem.
So why
And
was it
so,
so why was
yes,
it
go ahead.
important for you to come back and be a part of your son's life?
Um, that was part of it. Uh, but that was most part of why I wanted to change.
Hmm.
But most importantly, I was just tired, exhausted, and done.
Mhm.
To be honest, I was doing this like over and over again, and so I did really wanted to change for myself. But that's another thing that I learned. If I want to change for you, a post, let's just say I want to change for Albert. Eventually, once I make Albert proud, I'm gonna want to go back.
Yeah.
You know, I achieved. Uh, I showed Albert that I can be clean for 6 months.
Hmm.
Now, let me just have one drink. You know, I deserve it. Right? So, I mean, that's another thing that I learned. But yes, now that I was released, I wanted to be part of his life.
Hmm.
I kind of got wounded because I was so excited to see him born, so excited to help him, so excited to clean his diapers, so excited to have that father experience. That once I got released, he wasn't a baby no more.
Hmm.
And so I got so wounded, I got so hurt, and it's not his fault, you know. But I was hurt, you know. I was like, I missed it. Like
Hmm.
he's walking now, you know. And then so, and I got even more sad because when I first seen him, I wanted to held him. I wanted to grab him, you
Hmm.
know, like oh my, you know, grab him and kiss him. So when I went to reach for him,
He
he
ran away.
looked at me scared, and then he ran from me.
Hmm. Hmm.
He ran from me, and then so when he ran from me, but you know when a kid usually just walks away,
Yeah.
he just doesn't want to be held.
Hmm.
Like he looked at me with fear, like like who are you? And once I reached towards him, he looked at me like, why are you trying to touch
Mhm.
me? He like reached to me, not touch me, and he ran. And so once he ran to my brother, his uncle. And then I try to like still go towards him, hey, no, come here, you know, insist, and he started crying.
Hmm.
And so once I seen that, I was like, what did I do?
Hmm.
Like I was like, what did I do to make my son not recognize him? You
Hmm.
know,
Hmm.
what did I do to make my baby
Hmm.
walk away from me? You know, like
Hmm.
what did I do for him to fear me? And I remember he's not a baby anymore.
Hmm.
So I came out once again, like I was saying, I came out as a child.
Hmm.
I came out as, oh my God, my baby. And he wasn't a baby no more. I came out expecting a baby and not realizing that babies grow.
Hmm. 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 So,
So I,
so
yes, go
real
ahead.
quick on that. So I'll let you say something, Albert. So I got to tell you, man, thank you for sharing that. I'm going to share something with you. And Albert's never heard this story before. Okay. So I'm going to be very vulnerable. As you're sharing that story, I thought about my daughter, Alyssa. Something similar happened with her. And I didn't get incarcerated, but I was a part of her life for the first 9 months. And then I got to experience her crawling. And then her mom decided to move to Los Angeles. I didn't see her for a year and a half. So the next time I saw her, she didn't know me. She didn't want to come to me. And Albert, what that feeling is, it's like this dagger goes in your heart because you remember them
Mhm.
and you remember the last time you saw them and you smelt them they
Yes.
smiled at you. She smiled at me the last time I saw her. And this time she didn't want anything to do with me. And I'm gonna tell you, Albert, it affected me so much
Mhm.
that I withdrew as a dad to her. I've never told a story to anybody. I felt myself, my heart, I didn't want to get hurt again. So I
Wow.
felt myself withdraw. And that was one of the things that when you came into my life, I knew that would never happen because you were part of my life. So got a second chance. But I don't know why I'm sharing that. I'm just saying, Daniel, thank you for sharing because like that came up for me, a memory that I haven't thought about that memory in 29 years, dude. Anyway,
Wow,
so
that's amazing.
anyways,
That's
Aubrey, you got a
crazy.
question?
Mostly it's just like I was kind of in awe of just being able to finally realize like, oh my gosh, my kid is not doesn't even recognize me at all, you know? And I'm sure there's a lot of people out there that have felt that in some form if you've
Mm,
changed or shifted or even just started going through the motions of life, you know? Just imagine what that would feel like for a parent to finally look in the mirror and say like, oh, my kid doesn't even know who I am anymore. So I just want to commend you in deciding and making that change because if you didn't realize that, imagine where would you be too, you know? Like that would be just as hard or harder, you know, not only for you but for your child as well. So it's mostly um just really awesome that you're able to realize that too. So I'd like to hear more. You were still finishing part of your story and I
Yeah,
was curious about that.
yeah, keep
okay.
going.
So, and I guess you can say at that moment I needed to work my way to him. So I was so hurt, and even my own brother and my mom were like, just keep a distance from him. It'll be best if you just leave the house.
Mm,
And so that's how afraid he was. And so I just left the house. At the time, the mother of my son was still kind of in the picture. I was not with her. It's just since I was just got home, she was being there for me, telling me everything that was missing. So then I spoke to her and I asked her, what can I do to be here every day? At least come and see him. So this is where in this part of my life, I didn't have custody of my son. So what I'm speaking about right now is that everything that I was determined to do came about in so in a way that I did not expect it. So all I wanted to do is I want to get to know my son. I want to get to hold him. I want to get to play with him. And I just want to be a father, that I missed already 2 years and I don't want to miss no more, you
Mhm.
know? And so I did my best. At the time I was on parole, probation, whatever you want to call it. Um, so I needed permission as well to be able to take my son, without having how would you say any weapons on me or anything or being involved with. So I still had conditions
right.
of the things that I used to hang out with and do. And so, but I guess I needed to show myself that I was a different person before I even could take my son by myself, without mom's supervision.
Yeah.
And so once I achieved that, because I was achieving it, um, I was able to take my son with me out of her house and then bring him back to her house.
Mm,
But it came to a point that I started seeing things at her house
mm,
that I didn't like, but I couldn't do anything about it because, again, just getting released. I'm barely coming back into society. Um, I'm barely learning how to be a man, and so it wouldn't be convenient for me to want to go to court
yeah,
and be like, hey, I would like to, at least have 50%
yeah,
custody of my child.
yeah, yeah.
And so it was more like of a, well, if you even try to say anything that's going on over here, I'll call your probation officer.
Yeah,
I'll
right,
call
right,
your parole.
right.
And I was like, oh, okay, well then I guess I'll just, let it be.
Yeah.
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 And so it came about that once I was actually becoming a new man, she wanted to come back into my life. And I also wanted to, at first. And so once that happened, I was like, okay, let's do this. Let's work it out. Let's be mom and dad and let's restore these 2 years. But she had other kids as well. So I
Mhm.
I raised one of her other kids. And so we give it a shot. Uh Everything was going great. But what happened was I was actually really developing myself. I was actually really becoming someone new. And
Mhm.
so once she realized I wasn't who she, I guess you can say, fell in love with, there was a lot of problems.
Mhm. Mhm. Yeah.
And so once again, I'll say it again. I was a child. And so I started to become more mature.
Mhm.
And so things that were fun at the time, things that were okay at the time, things that didn't seem wrong at the time were being wrong now.
Yeah.
They were being not mature no more for me. And it was just a whole big uh growth for me.
Mhm.
It was scary, to be honest. But then because of all that, it became conflicts,
Right.
like, oh, well, you don't do this anymore. And then, well, how come I can't do it? And then I would be like, well, because it's bothering me because like I mean, if I'm gonna be with you for my future, and if this is gonna keep continuing, I don't think it's gonna work. Because if I'm like serious about not living in this way in this behavior, but you're not, then it's like, how am I gonna come home to my son? And he's like, well, that's doing great, but mom's not, you know? And so now I'm not saying this to talk bad about her. I'm just saying this because it's part of my journey. And so we all have decisions. We all have our own ways and our own beliefs that we want to do.
Mhm.
And so I don't blame her for the way uh, she wants to live, or for who she wants to be, you know?
Yeah. Hey, Daniel, got a question here.
Yes.
So, or actually more of a layers. One of the things I had to recognize for myself is as I was making these changes, and maybe you felt this as well, is when we change because we want to be better and others don't, there's going to be a misalignment. And people have
Mm-hmm.
to do two things. They're either
Yes.
going to be attracted to you or repelled by you. And we can't
Yeah.
control that.
Mm-hmm.
What I recognize though is the people that I really wanted close to me are the ones that repelled. Family members, girlfriends, friends, because there was this sense of connection. But as I was quote unquote evolving, especially when I stopped drinking, I realized that the only connection really had was in particular, partying atmospheres or whatever, different things we had in common. And what I realized is as I was changing and I was becoming this different person, and the truth of the matter is I was becoming more honest, authentic.
Mm-hmm.
People either will side with you, okay, or they'll deny you. Okay.
Yes.
If they side with you, you'll realize how much more empowering it is and your relationship will grow. If they deny you, they will then start talking massive shit about you. They will
Mhm.
then start everything that they were attracted
Mm-hmm.
to now becomes you're the enemy. Because
Mm-hmm.
if they side with you and then they deny you, basically they can't look at themselves and say, oh, he's doing well because of this, because then they'd have to look at themselves and say, I'm not doing
Mm-hmm.
well. There's
Mm-hmm.
something I'm missing. So I just want to give you that reflection that if you thought about that, that as things were changing with your ex, I guess my main question to you is, what was it finally that deterred you or made you the decision to move a different direction that was beneficial for you and your son?
So to be very, very honest, my decision was that I seen that it wasn't, how would I say it? It wasn't there no more. What we had was not there no more. And it was because once again I was a different person. So I'm gonna be very honest. The person she fell in love with was the person that was in bondage, hurt, wounded, did not know who he was. And so once I started to become a little bit more free, I was in a process of being healed. I was still having struggles. I will fall every now and then, but I was making the effort, to moving forward. But once I became clear minded, and once she started telling me, she'll tell me things and I'll get hurt. She'll tell me things like, "Oh, well, you don't do this no more, you don't do that no more, and you're like different now." And so I will get hurt, and I will think that I will have to. I will double think about keep going on my growth. So I will double think like, oh well, maybe I should just stay here. Maybe I should just stop growing here. That way I don't have no more problems. And so it becomes a point to be like, I don't want to go back. Like I'm so ahead. I'm so free. I'm so healthy now, and I'm seeing different outcomes. And I know, and I'm afraid that if I say, okay, I'll just come back to where I was at, I'll just come back to what I was doing, I'm gonna end up back to where I came from. Like I knew, like I was like, I cannot be that same person. I don't care if I'm boring now, like because that's that's not the person I am. That was that was someone I was reflecting to be. That was also a person to project to be. I was so hurt that I will have to do things to be that person. And then now that I'm gonna take it back to here now. Now that I'm here, I can be myself. I can tell you who I am. I can tell you my favorite color is pink,
Mhm.
and that's me. You know, it's an example, but what I'm trying to say is I can be myself. I don't have to be like, oh well, then I guess I like that team because you guys like that team. You know, and so I was in a transition that I knew who I was becoming. I knew who I was now. Like I was getting to know myself now. And so once I knew already who I was, a little bit of myself, I was like, well, this is who I am. So this is bothering you. Like if this person is bothering you now, the one that I am now, then I guess I have to go a separate way, because I'm not gonna be someone I'm not so that you can be happy, you know? And so that's when I made my decision to literally just leave. And so at this time, I still did not have my son. And so when I left, I started being more involved uh, in my walk. I started being more intentional. I started wanting to learn more. I started wanting to learn how I can stop drinking, learn how I can have fun without doing other things. And so once I started doing that, I started meeting new people, new crowds, and this is another thing that happened to me. Like Albert was saying, once you start growing, you see who your real friends are. Because if you're my real friend, you'll still talk to me if I don't drink. You'll still talk to me if I don't go to clubs. You'll still talk to me if I don't want to hang out in the alley. You still talk to me if I don't want to go do some bad things. And so once I started maturing, same thing happened with my friends. Would you like to come over, and have a good time, carne asada? I'm like, yes. And I will go over and same thing would happen. You've changed.
Mhm.
You're not the same no more. What's going on with you? Like, so they were trying to make me feel like I was wrong. You know, they're like, oh, well, you're doing this, you're doing that, like, like you're not cool no more. You're not this, you're not that no more. And I'm like, well, this is who I am.
Yeah.
Like, this is like I'm being myself. Maybe because I was so hurt, maybe because I was under the influence that was someone else. But this is who I am now. I mean, is it okay for me to come over and be me? And so it became other problems too. And so that's another decision that I made. I was like, if you guys want to hang out with me now, we can go to public places. We can go for a walk, we can go hike, we can go do things. But me going to your backyard now, I'm sorry, I can't do it anymore because all I hear is judgment. I come to your backyard as your friend, and all I hear is judgment. I come here to have a good time with you guys, and I'm not here to preach to you guys, and then you guys start judging me. And so I started feeling like attacked. And so I told them how I felt. I was like, look, man, if I'm gonna come over, can you guys please just accept me who I am? If not, then we could just hang out somewhere else. Because if you're my friend, you're not gonna want me to smoke again, drink again, you know, basically go back to who I was. And so I lost that too. I lost friendships. Not because I wanted to, it's just because once again, I hope they call me and say, let's go for a walk, let's go to the park, let's take our kids, let's hang out. They didn't. Uh and so I lost that too. And so one thing that I did learn, and I'm learning now, that once you're growing, once you're achieving, once you're moving constantly, you're gonna be alone.
Yeah.
Not lonely. It's a difference between being lonely and alone. So I started noticing that, started learning that it's okay to be alone. It's okay not to have 20 friends. And so once I got to the point of my life where I was able to uh get my own paycheck, able to drive myself to work and back and home, I did the change of wanting to take custody of my son, but I did not take the step yet. Still afraid. It's just an incident happened at her house, and so I had the advantage to then file custody, and then that's how I came about to have custody of my son.
Hmm. Yeah, so there's a lot of story in there too where you kept not wanting to go back to your old self, right? And that's pretty common. A lot of people feel that. I even feel that, not to the same degree. But like when you did you ever feel like, and when you did go back to that old self, if you ever did you feel like disconnected from who you are? Like
Mm,
what was the main reason for you not wanting to go back? Just for people to kind of put in perspective, like who you used to be versus the person that you are now.
it's a very good question. Um, and so to very be honest, like I said before, you have to change for yourself first before you change for anyone else. And so once I knew I wanted to change for me, not for my son, not for my mom, not for my family, not for my friends, or for my mentor. Uh, and once I got started getting to know myself, I liked myself. I noticed that I started to do things that I used to do when I was younger. One thing that I still do now when I used to do when I was younger is ice skate. A lot of people don't know about me. Uh, I used to play hockey. And so once I started to become someone I wasn't, that was something that I left behind because it's not cool, you know? That's for, I don't know, for weird people, you know? I don't know how to put it, but it's something that a cool person doesn't do, you know? You know, you don't go ice skate. What are you doing, bro? Going ice skating, you know? And so I left that behind. And so once I started to be sober minded, once I started to be myself, I realized I wanted to do things that I used to do, as in my my old self, my childhood, things I used to do as a teenager before I transitioned into becoming someone I wasn't. And so once I realized and seen that, I was like, wow, I'm wanting to do this now. I'm wanting to express the real me, you know, and do the habits that I used to have, my sports stuff, my walks, you know, my workouts. And so that's what stopped me a little bit from not wanting to go back. Like I
Mm.
don't want to do that. I don't want to lose that no more. I don't want to lose that joy that brings back memories to me. That this is what I love doing. This is what I love doing. Like this is who I am. Like if you don't like it, it's okay. I'll see you in an hour. I'm gonna go ice skate. You can say whatever you want. I'm not gonna change once again. I'm being myself. See, we're so programmed. Oh, now you got me going. We're so programmed, you know, since we grew up. Oh, look, so got Air Force, Nike Air Force Ones, but I like Adidas. But since everybody has Air Force Nike Ones, there I go to the
Yeah.
mall. Please. Oh, they're too much. Mom, can you please? They're too much. Just wait, mom. And then you get them at the end of the year. Christmas, Air Force Ones. By then, everybody has other shoes. By then, everybody else already over the Air Force Ones and they have other shoes on. See, you're following everybody else. But if you stuck to yourself and you're like, you know what, I'm gonna keep my Adidas. You know, I love my Adidas. You know, I'm gonna buy other colors of Adidas. Maybe someone else like, hey, bro, I like your shoes. I like those Adidas. Maybe someone else will like you. Where did you get those? Nice. I'm probably gonna give me some of those. But I'm trying to get Nike's Air Force Ones that I don't become myself. Now I'm becoming someone I'm not. So it becomes when we're younger, we catch onto that, but we don't know. We're so programmed like, well, everybody else has iPhones or everybody else has this. So I need to have this. I need to have that. And so do you want it? Does it benefit you? Is it part of yourself? You know? And so I went deep, sorry. But I started to be myself. So I started not to care if you didn't like myself in a good way, you know? And so that's what kept me not going back. I was like, you know what? Like, if I look at back myself, it's kind of the same person that you see kind of around everywhere else, just
So
with a little
I got a
of
question
your
for you.
personality, you know?
I got a
And
question for you.
so, once again, not to throw anybody that's still living that kind of lifestyle or still decides to do what they do, not talk bad at all. It's just that it comes to a point with you want to do something different, you know? It comes to a point that, you know what, I think I might want to make a shift. It comes to a point to be like, you know what, I think there's something out there better for me, you know? I think that I can achieve something that I've been wanting to do, you know? That I have been stopping myself because I'm too busy being someone else, you know? And so once I realized that this is who I am, this is what I love to do, I think I'm getting to know myself now, you know? I started to change.
So Daniel, um, love what you're bringing. I'm gonna get deeper. Okay, I'm gonna go deep, bro.
Can't hear you.
You can't hear me? Oh, sorry. All right, sorry. All right, here we go. So I'm gonna go deeper. Okay.
Ooh,
I
I
feel
love
like
it. I love going deep.
there's more here. Okay. So there's a man watching you right now. There's a man watching this show,
Yes, sir.
and the man is watching. Here's your story. They see
Mhm.
my story. They see my son. What really was it about the old self that you hated? Let me give you an
Ooh.
example. For me, okay, and why I'm going deep is because It's really important, like some of the facts. One of the things
Yes, sir.
about me that I had to come grips with is I hated the fact that I was a people-pleasing man boy. I hated the fact
Ooh,
that
that's the big one.
I lied. I used to lie. I used to fabricate. I used to people please so bad that I would really manipulate and lie just so I wouldn't get in trouble. This is when I'm a grown ass man, by
Wow.
the way. This is when I was married. This is with
Mhm.
colleagues. And I didn't like the man I became. And I also didn't know how to say no. I was yes
Uh-huh.
man to fucking everybody. When I made a
Wow.
decision to change, one of the things that I did, kind of like you did, was like, I am doing this for me. My kids weren't talking to me. It didn't really matter the outcome. I was like, I need to become a better man. So my really question to you is, what were the four things that
Ooh.
frustrated you about you the most that you're like, I'm never fucking doing that again?
So number one, I'll be honest. Here we go. Four. Try to top them off. Number one, the child in. I hated the child in. And by what I mean by a child is childish things.
Mhm.
You know, someone looked at me wrong. There I go. Are you looking at me wrong? Oh no, bro. I was just, looking at at the sign.
Love it.
My childish ways. My childish ways. Someone bumped into me. It's just childish.
Okay.
Bumped into me. Excuse me. Oh, it's okay. Go on. If you bumped into me and said, "Excuse me, I'm sorry," and we're at Burger King, it's a wrap. Oh, it's childish, bro. The guy didn't do anything to you. He bumped into me. He said, "Excuse me."
Yeah.
He apologized to
Yeah.
you.
Yeah.
He didn't mean to hit you. That's one number one. I hated that. I hated that of myself. I don't know why. I just that's not
Mhm.
who I am.
Mhm.
I hated that. That was number one, childish. Number two, my drinking.
Mhm.
Mm.
I hate that most. Second most, my drinking. You will not catch me without a drink. And if you would, it'll be for an hour or two
Mhm.
or three the most. I might not be drunk, but I will be tipsy.
Mhm.
Just tipsy to get me through the day. Like I'm good. I'm feeling good. And so I hated that the most. I cannot do anything without drinking.
Mhm.
Hang out, drink. Sit down, drink.
Mhm.
Watch a movie, drink.
Yep.
Eat, drink.
Yep.
And so I hated that the most. Okay. The third thing that I hate about my old self is that I was always away from my family.
Mhm.
Mm.
Did not want to be around my family. It's this. No, I will make an excuse of why I couldn't be with them
Mhm.
because I didn't want to be with them. Because once again, I was a child. I was someone I wasn't. So it's not cool for me to hang out with you
Yeah.
guys and do family stuff.
Yeah.
That's boring. See, that's how my old self used to do.
Mhm. Mhm.
That's boring. I don't do that. I don't do family gatherings. I'm sorry. Haven't seen you in 2 years, 3 years. Can you at least come by and say hi? It's
Mhm.
so-so's birthday. Oh, it's because I have something to do.
Yeah.
Productive? No. So I will always stay away from my family.
Mhm.
Excuses of why we're not be around my family.
Mhm.
Last in four leagues, number four, that I hated about myself. And it's so hard to say, and I'm gonna say it's sleeping around.
Mm.
Mhm.
It's a big one.
That right there, I and it's the fourth for a reason. Because if you notice, it's the last one for the reason. Because that was a very hard thing for me to accept that I had a problem with.
Yeah.
Um, I used to think it was normal So the way I was raised, the way I grew up, the person who I used to be,
Mhm.
it's normal. And so once I started to become a new man, I realized that it wasn't healthy for me as well.
Mhm.
And so that was the hardest one that I had to leave behind.
Mhm.
Um, and I'm being serious when I mean sleeping around. I don't
Mhm.
mean just sleeping with
Yeah.
someone.
Yeah. Got it.
and so and so I once I left that part of me, I hated it most because I started not to feel right.
Yeah.
Before
Yeah.
it felt right, before it felt good,
Yeah.
then it started not to feel right. And so it is because I'm grown. And so my mind, my spirit is telling me, I think this is something that you need to work on now. And so, I mean, I don't know, everyone's different, but that's how my body and spirit works.
Mhm.
Once I start growing, it starts telling me, "Ding, ding, 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 detecting, there's something here,
Mhm.
And
That
so,
higher consciousness.
yes, so those four things that I hate about my old self.
So real follow-up real quick. So now that I asked that question, right? How does it feel releasing all that?
Whew. Publicly.
Yeah. Yeah.
To be honest, I was nervous when you asked me about the four things that I hate about myself, but now I feel even
Yeah.
more light.
But do you see the medicine that? Do you see in the medicine that what I
Mm-hmm.
really learned, what I love what you said, dude, is I can relate to you 100%. Okay. Everything you said, I relate to. The
Mm-hmm.
drinking, I forgot to mention the drinking. That was a big part
Yes.
later. But for me, the sleeping around, what I learned, and this was after my kids were raised. I did it after I was divorced. I felt even more empty. And I felt the karmic debt of now I'm leading this chick on, and she thinks I want to be with her, and I have no intention to it. So there's manipulation there. So then I got to
Mm-hmm.
deal with it. So I mentioned this to you because this is really, really important, Daniel. Do you really do you understand now how important it is for you to share your story in detail and how impactful it can be once you learn how to package it?
That is so good. Yes. I see now with this question. This question was very good. And I see you're absolutely right. Someone right now that's watching this or that's going to watch this
Yeah.
can actually start thinking about what four things they hate about themselves now. Because you don't have to be sober or a
Mm-mm.
different person to know what you hate about yourself. To tell
Absolutely.
you that right now.
Absolutely. Yeah. Yeah.
But we now that you got me going on that part, we tend to keep going.
Yeah.
We tend to keep doing things that we don't like because we don't know who we are.
Mm.
So if I don't like this part of me, but I'm like, well, it's Friday and well, I have nothing else to do, and I'm just gonna bring that part out of me, you know, because you're so stuck, you're so hurt, you're so wounded, you're so just
Yeah.
lost that you don't know what to do.
Mm.
Yeah.
You'd rather do something you hate than do nothing.
Yeah, you just hold on to that shame for a while and it just
Yeah,
builds and
yeah,
builds and
it's the
builds.
truth. I'm
Yeah.
speaking the truth now.
Yeah.
And so, I mean, I think that way it will impact someone that they can realize that you don't have to wait till you're completely a different person to notice that there's some things that you still don't like about yourself. That was good, Albert.
Yeah, that was a great question, honestly. We have about like 5 minutes left and just wanted to just one, thank you, and two, do you have a question about for me and my dad that you've been
Mm,
curious about since
yes, I want to
about
say,
this?
I wanted to ask you guys since we're on here, to let everybody know, how did the Legacy Project come about? How did we get to the 30s? Are we in the 32nd episode here?
32nd, yes.
Yeah. So how did we get so far here, and how did it
Uh,
come up?
how you're here right now is a culmination of the last 5 to 10 years of travesty, tragedy, and finally just like taking ownership and responsibility. Me and my dad have a theme that we match somehow. We're just every time we don't talk to each other.
I was just
We
gonna
don't
say that.
talk.
We didn't plan
Hey,
it.
I didn't get the memo.
We did not plan it. Every time we have the same shirt on. It's
Every time
ridiculous.
we have the same shirt on. I think maybe about like five
uh,
times we haven't had this shirt on, but that's just kind of that's what it's been recently. Is we're in what, September now? And when me and my dad first talked about this, it was June of 23. And so we were just really wanting to take our relationship to the next level, and just share what we had learned. And even then we didn't know where it would be, because me and my dad had to kind of go through a little bit of a renaissance of just talking with each other face to face, and not hiding and running away from our problems anymore, because there was a lot of tension that was built up between us, through the years of just not knowing how to communicate. There was a, a divorce that happened with my mom and dad that made our relationship and family rocky. And then when I moved to college a couple years after the divorce, didn't want really to do anything with the family. I would show up, but I would just show up, you know? Um, and I was just kind of just there just to appease the family. And then, so that was in 2017 to 2018, 19. And then, um, yeah, my dad decided to kind of take some ownership around that time frame, because this incident happened with him that I got onto him about, because he spent a night in jail, and put my sister in a compromising position. And so I got onto him about that. And then finally he decided to do something about it. And at the same time, I kind of decided to start looking into myself, but really not until like 2022. So that was when I was learning about my own emotions and more about self-awareness, from what I'd kind of gathered from him. And so, yeah, we had a big conversation in 22, about where we wanted to go, who we wanted to be, and it allowed for us to really just kind of surface, like come like bring everything to the surface that we were holding on to with each other. And yeah, last year we were doing a one-on-one vacation with each other, and I just thrown out the idea like, hey, like why don't we bring this to the table, like what we've been able to build, because our family started to do Thanksgivings about 7 years after the divorce. Um, we had a big turnaround with how we all communicated with each other, and then me and my dad had just strengthened our bonds. Um, we started just talking about almost anything. I'd tell him about 95% of my life, I'd say, if I had to throw a number out there. And me and him talked to each other about 2, 3 times a week, and we'll dive into what's really, it's just cool for other people to come on here as well and share their stories about being fathers, mothers, and the stuff that they had to deal with overall.
That's so good.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
mean,
Wow.
he summed it up. You know, here the bottom line is this, and I tell fathers this all the time. Okay, this would have never happened
Mhm.
if his dad had not owned his part in the failed relationship. I think it's every parent's
Mhm.
responsibility to mend the relationship with their child, not the child with their parent.
Yes.
So what I had to do is, again, I'm not putting myself on a pedestal. I'm not saying, what I'm saying is that I had to take ownership. I had to listen to my son, but more importantly, when him and I had a conversation in 2022, I didn't coddle him. I was bothered by a few things that he was doing. And I put it on the table. I'm like, look, if we want our relationship to grow, I feel like I'm giving this and you're still withholding this. In order for us to grow, I need you to let this go, or let's just call it what it is. And so there were some things that were bothering me about his activity and what he was doing. And I felt resent. And I was like, I can't live like this. So if this is how we're going to live, then and not get past this, then this is
Mhm.
where it's going to be at. And so a lot of it, again, a couple of messages is I had to own my part, but I also had to have the courage in losing him by telling him what was bothering me without coddling him. and let him
Mm-hmm.
as a man make a decision how important it was for him to be a part of my life. The old me would have people pleased to make sure that his needs were met, and then that I would sacrifice that. So it was a really huge pivoting point in our relationship. But then on top of that, him and I realized, and I keep telling him this, he's a spitting image of me. He's just 26 years younger than me. That's it. Like I'm the same exact man as he is. He's just evolved on a whole nother level of awareness that he's 10 times the man I was at 26 years old. 10 times. He's a wonderful man. He's got so much wisdom and understanding, discernment that I never had at that age. And he's also had to earn that by evolving and being around men and having hard conversations and
Mm-hmm.
not avoiding it. So him and I have learned how to talk because he's around other men that are also making him elevate to have conversations that he would have never had before. So in other words, the growth between him and I happened to be simultaneously because we both wanted it.
Wow. And how long has it been that your relationship has been great now? I mean, we wouldn't say perfect, right? But
Yeah. I would say we had him and I go back to the conversation we had in LA at this little Italian restaurant. That was 2.5 years ago. I would say a good 2.5 years. That was the springboard.
Mhm.
I would say I'm going to tell you probably in the last 9 months, it's even got even more because we're having this. And think about this, Daniel. How old is your son again? 10 years old?
He's no eight, eight,
Eight.
yeah,
Think about this.
almost there, almost there.
So in 15 years, he's going to be 23. Okay.
Mm,
Imagine having this man conversation, you divulging everything about you that you don't want to tell him, your incarcerations, you're dealing with drugs, women. Imagine having conversations with your son so he can understand that you were just a fucking fuck up like he was. And now you have this relatability and you're not a pedestal. You're just
mm,
another man, a young man that had troubles like he did. That bridge
wow.
would allowed us when I was able to talk now he would admit to you though, okay, at first it was very overwhelming. At first it was too much information. At first it was just he didn't want to
Mm,
hear it because of his ego, right, and his vulnerability of trusting me, right. He didn't
mhm,
trust me and feel safe around me. But over time, since I just started to divulge information, he's been more receptive because I haven't weaponized it. I haven't weaponized
mm,
his things with me. We've had this agreement that we talk about things and we talk about sensitive topics and keep them within us. So there's some agreements that we've made to where I don't divulge it to preach. I don't divulge it to pride. I don't divulge it to show that I'm better than thou. I'm share it with him, let him know, look, I was 25 at one time. I know the emotions. This is what I did. This is my failures I did. And you have an opportunity to either follow my path or use what I did and propel you to another area. That's why I share the information with him.
wow. That is so good. Take that advice. I would love to have a conversation with
Yeah.
my 23 year
Yeah.
old son.
It's just
It's
been really
possible.
nice. Because there's just a weird dynamic that happens with like being a son and having your father being there too is it's I don't know if it's innate or not, but sometimes it feels like it is where like we just put our fathers on this high pedestal and kind of what my dad I
Mm,
think was summarizing was just putting your level to him essentially, not going down to his level, I guess, but just showing what level you are at or were at certain points of your
mm,
times, I think has allowed for me to put more perspective because I had some ideas of who my dad was, but I didn't understand the context more so of it. And I think that helps with, and it sounds like you're having a different life for your son than what you grew up in, or at least what you put yourself in, I
yes.
should say. I don't know the early development of your life.
Mhm.
But at least the whatever life you were in, you're hoping to not have him follow that same footsteps. And so he can kind of understand like, okay, even if I do make mistakes, there's a chance for me to like redeem myself. And it's fun to hear those Hollywood movies, right, of redemption and comeback stories,
Yes.
but like to have your father be seen that way is a different story because it's real. So
Mhm.
Yeah, I want to say thank you so much, just from me and my dad, and just to be able to build another cool episode today. I got a lot out of it, and I'm already thinking of other stuff that I want to implement too. In terms of just avoidance, what I do, and how I can just look in the mirror and address it, because it got to me just realizing, like, someone told me this last week. I met up with my men's group in person, and you were talking about the things that you hate about yourself. And
Mm,
one of his clients was telling him how we are shame. We are the thing that we don't like about ourselves too. And
ooh,
how do we put that in ourselves? And I was questioning it at first because I didn't like it, but it kind of makes sense. Like, the shame that you do feel, that is you. And you can't run away from it, because if you
mhm.
do, it's just gonna go faster. And
It's, it's
so
just
you
gonna
gotta,
grow. It's gonna grow in you.
right. It's like venom, right?
Like
The
Venom.
more
Yep.
you
It's like
Mhm.
Venom.
resist.
Yep.
Yeah, yeah,
Exactly.
exactly.
So I've been
After you.
pondering with that. Yeah. And so the more you resist, the more it's going to come onto you. So I just want to say thank you for showing that. And that was the biggest thing that I took away from today. And I'll let you finish off, Dad. Is there anything you want to say before we sign off?
Yeah, man. I just Daniel, thank you
Mhm.
for entrusting us. Thank you for coming on here. And I know that I can be straight sometimes, and I do it sorry, not sorry. It's how I roll. But no, I learned a lot from you today. What I a couple reflections, bro. You have a great story. My invitation to you is
Mhm.
stop holding back. Stop holding back, bro. Somebody needs to hear your story. Okay. And that's why it
Yes,
was
sir.
really a little tough on you tonight, because I want to know Daniel. I want to know your frustrations. I want to know, because someone needs to hear that they're relating to you. So thank you for letting us go there.
Yes.
And I'm gonna say this as a father, man. I'm super proud of you. I'm super proud of you for stepping up and taking ownership of being a father. And we didn't get in a lot of details about that, but I just commend you for where you're at, and feel free to reach out anytime. You have access to my son now. He's a great young man. And if there's anything that you need, conversation wise, him and I we're just, we love what we're doing. And I love the medicine you brought today. So,
Amen.
thank you for coming on.
Well, thank
Well,
you
thank you
guys.
so much. Yeah, it means the world that you're able to come here. For anyone that's watching, we're here every Tuesday at 6:30 PST. We'd love to hear from you. So whatever comments you have, whatever questions you want to bring to the table, we're open. That's part of what we like to do, is just anything goes on here at the Legacy Project. So thank you, Daniel, again for coming on. It was such a pleasure. And me and my dad are signing off.